Thank you, Vincent. Appreciate you having me here, and it's my pleasure. Believe me, I enjoy teaching. In fact, a little bit about me. um, I've always had sort of a dual career track. If you can see my screen, I was a teacher for 30 years. Simultaneously, I ran a tutoring company for about 10 of those years, and that was a franchise. So basically, if you know about franchises, you pay your money, and it's basically a business in a box. They tell you everything you need to do to make it successful. And it was a good business for many years, 10 years. And then the law changed in the state of Illinois because we did a lot of this No Child Left Behind. Maybe some of you were a part of that when you were kids. But my point is the law changed, and we lost about 80% of our business. So this is something that is a really good lesson. And you're seeing this even as we speak, that business always has to adapt and change to the environment. So, for instance, you see this in the restaurant business very much across the country, but especially in Chicago, where you're not supposed to have indoor dining right now. Well, it is November, right? And it is cold out, but some of these innovative restaurants, they will buy those heaters, outdoor heaters, and they will find a way to innovate and still make their business work for them. So that's a really good lesson, something to observe. So I've been involved I own a financial advising firm, and we have offices in Lansing, Illinois, and St. John, Indiana. Married, have 4 children. Some of my kids are college age. So a little bit about me. Also, I want to direct your attention to the bottom here where it says giving back. I support the following charities and causes. These are some of just a few of them, but Cedarville Greater Europe Mission Alzheimer's Foundation. I want to emphasize that because we're going to come back to that in just a few moments. But one thing, and let's see, my screen is, let's see, oh, here we go. In school, you students, you're training to be in business and be in management, and you're going to, at some point, manage people. You're probably going to manage inventory. You're probably going to manage sales. You're probably going to manage finances of a company, or at least keep track of finances, or be aware of what's going on in your company as your assistant manager, or become managers, or some of you I'm sure will be owners of your own companies at some point in your lives. But it's really important as you're managing other people and other things and products, it's really important to manage your own finances. Think about that for a minute. Now, let me ask you something. When you were growing up, maybe some of you are in your 20s or 30s, or in your own life, when you were growing up, what was money like in your household? Was it that that money was in short supply? That your family lived paycheck to paycheck? That were there fights about money in your home? Or was it that your finances were not an issue? That in fact, finances were so much of a non-issue that you got an allowance every week for doing nothing. And every week or every month, you just got your money and you can spend it as you please. What was money like in your family, in your parents. Now, my guess is, regardless of where the money situation in your home was, my guess is that your parents did the best with the knowledge they had. And perhaps their background, they never had an opportunity to learn about a positive money mindset. I'm going to challenge you right now, as you think of this, where you are at or your parents are at. Where are you at in this continuum from surviving to struggling, stable, secure to surplus? Where are you at in this continuum? Many clients that I work with are right here. If you can see my cursor moving, right between the struggling and stable. It's not unusual for that to be the case. My guess is some of you are in that same situation. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with being there. What I would say is, and I mean this in the best way, is to move yourself or find the tools to move yourself to the right, from struggling to stable, secure, and surplus. I think everybody wants that. I do not think people want to worry, lay in bed at night and wonder where the rent payment's going to come from, or the car payment, or the grocery bill. So it's not about where you came from or what happened in the past. You can't fix any of that. You can only move forward. So what I want to talk about tonight for a few minutes is a money mindset and some financial habits to live by. And I'm going to suggest to you that if you incorporate these things into your life and work on these things and develop the habits. Remember, a habit is not something that happens overnight. A habit takes a long time to develop. Some of you have a habit of going to the gym every week. Some of you have a habit of going out for pizza every Friday night. Some of you, we all have different habits, but we want to talk about financial habits that you can develop and take with you. Now, first one seems really obvious, but it's harder than you think. Spending less than you make. Spend less than you make. So let me ask you this question. These are all questions for you to ponder, think about. At the end of the month, is there more money at the end of the month, or is there more month at the end of the money? Is there more money at the end of the month, or is there more month at the end of the money? So there's many ways to think about this, but I think the first thing is, for many people, there is more month at the end of the money, and then we just skimp until the next paycheck, and we live paycheck to paycheck. Many people do that. If you're doing that, you're not alone. But so what I suggest for you, if you want to turn this piece around, here's what I suggest you do, is develop a budget. And I would suggest developing a budget like this, and I can send this out in the deck. In fact, Professor, I did send you the deck this morning, but I'll send another PDF of this out to you. But I would say write it down. Write it down. And I would not even really worry about the annual budget. I would worry about the monthly budget. That's really what you need to be thinking about. And I'll tell you this, when I do this exercise with my clients, there's two places where we can fix their budget immediately or reduce spending if we have an issue with spending. There's a place we can do it immediately. Number one is fast food consumption. It is very easy to go through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. I know my kids do it all the time, getting their iced coffees. It's very easy to go through the Taco Bell White Castle, or whatever one of those fast food places is that you happen to like. And, you know, their meals are priced very inexpensively, you know, $3, $5, $8 for a full meal. And that's really good. That's really good when you need that. But I tell you what, you know, you do that 5 days a week. You do that 20 times a month, and you're going to see how much you're actually spending at those places. So my first suggestion is to reduce the fast food intake. Plan ahead a little bit, pack a lunch for when you're going somewhere off to work. Make your coffee at home. Find some way to reduce your fast food intake. I just worked on this exercise with a young man in my office a week ago, and he, you know, I think he is a painter, and he was going out, and but anyways, he started going to the grocery store, buying a loaf of bread and some lunch meat and some cheese and mustard, and you know, that whole thing cost $10, let's say, versus and that'll last a week, and versus maybe $40 for the week. So there is a really that's a quick and short way to reduce your cash outflow. Here's another way that I've noticed is with subscriptions. And there's, let's see, there's Spotify, Pandora, YouTube TV, HBO. There's, you know, I don't know all of the ones that or Google Music. All these different subscriptions add up really quickly. And the first one's $8 or $10 or $15, and but then, and that may be fine to do that. But as these add up, it's $35, $50, $60, $100. Especially, I know YouTube TV is keeps going up because we have that in our family. So be judicious about the use of these subscriptions, and if you're not using them on a regular basis, unsubscribe from those. Or if you don't use them, if you don't use them very much, unsubscribe to them. So budgeting as far as helping you spend less than you make. It makes sense. It's not easy to do all the time. Which leads me to the next one, being wise with debt. Being wise with debt. How do you feel about your debt load right now? How do you feel about your debt load? Some of you are thinking, I don't want to talk about it. It's depressing. I get it. And, you know, the spending less than you make leads into the debt load. For many of us, credit card is a very real debt. Did you know, I Googled this yesterday as I was doing prep, the average credit card interest rate is 17%. 17%. Many of you on your credit cards, and you can check this on your statement, the interest rate. If you have a 20% interest rate and you carry a balance of $500 for a year, how much have you paid in interest? $100. That's huge. That is huge. So I would say to you, good rule of thumb with your debt is if you cannot pay off your credit card at the end of every month, thus avoiding the interest charges, you're spending too much. Pay off that credit card every month. That will be a good shorthand to see if you're spending too much. If you're spending less than you make, you need to spend less than you make. The other kinds of debt are not as important. Let's put it this way. They are important, but they're not as critical at your stage of life. School loan, maybe you are in the middle of school. Those rates are somewhere between 5 and 8% usually. Not great, but it's better than the credit card. Car notes and mortgages. You know, there is good debt and there is bad debt. I think I would say credit cards are bad debt because you have the means to control that. Uh, Mortgages are usually good debt. Why? Because the mortgage, the value of your home or your parents' home will accrue in value over time. So that is a good debt, I would say. Um, the other thing I was going to say about this, let's say you are in credit card debt. Work on that first. Work on that first to eliminate that debt. And there are some ways you can do that by moving your debt over to another credit card that has a low interest rate, and then it gives you a year to pay that off. I know our company has that offer as well. If you qualify, THRIVENT Credit Union has that. So be wise with that, which leads me, and these all lead into each other, is protect yourself against setbacks. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what happens in your household if the car breaks down? What happens if you have a water heater break? What happens if the house needs a new roof? What happens in your family's life? Does it put everything into a tailspin? So first thing is, and as you're building your financial habits, again, remember, don't beat yourself up too much if you're not where you want to be. I don't think anybody's where they want to be, truthfully. But the first thing is get your spending under control, work on that debt, get that credit card paid off. And here's the next step. Save for yourself $1,000 in the bank. $1,000 in the bank. Why? Precisely so you can deal with those emergencies that come up, like the water heater or the brakes on your car or the transmission or I don't know. Everybody has all different kinds of setbacks. Or maybe maybe it's Christmas and you want to be generous to your family, nieces and nephews, kids, cousins, and so forth. Nothing wrong with doing that. But start with saving $1,000 to have in your bank as a cushion. And then the next goal is to have 3 to 6 months of your salary cash on hand. 3 to 6 months of cash on hand. Why? Well, just think about what happened in March here, where all of a sudden for a month and longer, all service industry jobs were pretty much shut down. All the restaurants. And if you were in that industry, service industry, you got a big hit. Or, theaters shut down, playhouses shut down. So all these, half the economy shut down. So for those people, obviously it makes for some scary times. But if you have 3 months of cash on hand, or 6 months is even better, that is really good for you. That will help you sleep easier at night and not worry. Now, we all worried in some level, right? In March, what was going to happen to the world and the economy and stuff. But having that money gives you a little bit of peace of mind. Also, regarding setbacks, if you have a job with a company, I want you to be very aware of your employer handbook and what it says with regard to 401k. Most companies have some kind of a 401k plan. Many companies have a matching program where if you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even I've seen it up to 7%. If you put in a percentage of your salary, they will match it. So if you're putting in 3%, they're going to match 3%. Guess what? You have 6% of your salary going for your future self. Um, every company is different on this. There's no standard on how much they will contribute. With a 401k, just so you know, you have to be over 21 to participate. And sometimes there's a vesting period. You have to be with the company sometimes a year or 2 years. Like I say, every company is different with that. But take advantage of that. What does your company say about life insurance? Do they give you a little life insurance policy if you passed? And who are the beneficiaries for that policy? How about disability? If you're disabled on the job, how long does that last? All those things are good to know, important to know. And if they are not as robust as you would like them, you should probably get a policy outside your job. I would argue that you always should, just because we change jobs. The tendency is to change jobs, especially as you're young, and you should have a policy that carries with you wherever you go. But anyways, protecting yourself against setbacks. Start with that $1,000, graduate to 3 to 6 months cash on hand. Thing you can do today or tomorrow is become familiar with that employee handbook. So this comes to the next financial habit to live by. By the way, my college years, this was the best thing I learned in all my college. It can be summed up in 3 words. In 3 words, all my college, it was have a plan. Have a plan. Have a plan, a short-term plan, and have a long-term plan. What do you want your life to look like in a year? What do you want your life to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 30 years? Where do you want to go, and how do you want to get there? Some of you are going to have a goal, I'm sure of it, that you want to have or earn $1 million, maybe $1 million in your investment account, or you want to be you want to have $1 million in some kind of account, or you want to have a home that's worth some of you are going to have that as your goal. Okay, how are you going to get there? What is your plan to get there? And I'll tell you this, regardless of what you see on social media or TV or whatever, it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot. Sometimes there's a exorbitant amount of talent that goes into it, but there's also hard work. The other thing I would say is surround yourself with successful people. If you see somebody that is more successful than you, make sure you talk to them and say, hey, can I take you out for coffee? Can we get together? I want to hear your success story. Make sure you're communicating and networking with people who are more successful than you. Very rarely, but once in a while, you will come across a person who is selfish, who says, no, I don't want to help you. Well, let me tell you, in the long run, those type of people who are selfish and not giving of themselves are really losers in the long run. And avoid them like the plague, I would say. And here's the last piece, and this is why I showed you some of the groups that I'm passionate about and who groups that I'm involved with. And let me put this as delicately but as truthfully as I can, not to offend anyone, but life is not about you. Life is not about you. And the sooner you learn that, I would say to you that you will have a more fulfilling life. Well, You're saying, Doug, how can that be? Let me ask you this. Your life is really about others, helping others. I'm convinced about, no matter what line of work you are in, it is about making the lives of others better. So think about who are the people, the causes, and the charities that you most care about. I'll say it again. Who are the people, causes, charities, or I'll add this as well. Maybe for some of you, church that you care about. And so what do we do when we care about someone or something? What do? We spend time with them. If you care about your mother, make sure you spend time with her, share a meal with her on a regular basis. She will be thrilled. I know this from experience. If you care about a charity or a cause, spend time with that charity, invest in that charity with your time and energy. If you care about a church, spend time there, volunteer at that church. I think because if you have the mindset that my life is all just about me, I think at the end of the day, you will be very, what's the right word? Sad. I'll put it that way.
Unfulfilling.
And you will have a lonely life, quite frankly. and that's, and I bring that up. That's not really a financial piece. I guess it is because you can contribute, but I think, I would say being a financial planner, I will be the first to tell you life is not all about money. It's about relationships. It's about connections. It's about helping other people. And I help people by helping them with their finances. Here's just another way of thinking about this. Some of you are very visual learners. I know I am. And when I see this pyramid, it really takes into effect everything that we talked about. So that base part, that foundation of your plan, of your life plan, is protection. What does protection meaning? Well, here we talked about this. Emergency savings, that first $1,000, budgeting, not spending more than we make. Debt management, actively paying off first and foremost that credit card. Health insurance, if you have a job, many jobs have health insurance. Health savings account is another way that your employer may have for you to save on health. Life insurance, of course. Usually companies have a small life policy. If you're a homeowner, property casualty liability insurance, disability insurance. If you're disabled, and if everyone's depending on you in your family, you need to have that piece. Long-term care insurance, we talk about that as people move into their late 40s, early 50s, and wills, power of attorney, and trusts. When you're no longer, if you're out on your own, if you have children, you need to have a will, power of attorney, and trust. And then accumulation, and these are not, you do one and do the other. It's some of these are mixed together, but you can start retirement savings now. In fact, you can start an IRA, individual retirement account, when you're 18. And I'll tell you this, and I said this to the other class, it's not timing the market to get in, jump in at the best time. It's time in the market. So for some of you, you have 20, 30, 40, maybe 45, maybe even 50 years before retirement happens for you. Think about all that time that you can weather the market fluctuations and be putting money in every month for your future self, just on a regular basis, whether it's $100 or $200, or even $50. $50 is better than nothing, but we call it, in our business, we call it dollar cost averaging, every month being very intentional about accumulation for your future self. College savings as well. You're in college, but if you have, as you have children, saving for college for them and so on. And then distribution, making sure that you do not run out of money in retirement. It, you know, Social Security is good as far as it goes, but it pays for your needs. It does not pay for your wants. It does not pay for your wishes. It pays for your needs. That's intentional. It pays for your food and shelter and clothing. That's about it. Maybe some utilities. Everything else, vacations that you would want to take, um, traveling that you'd want to do, all take extra money. And then legacy. How do you want to be remembered? Who do you want your money to go to? Because I'm convinced in this group this size, some of you are going to be very, very successful. No doubt in my mind. And doing these things, digesting these things, thinking about these things will be a piece of your road to success. So, Professor asked me to talk a little bit about different ways to save and invest. So, let me address that now. So, he talked a little bit about savings. But when you have a portfolio, when you have money, and don't let the word portfolio scare you. Everybody has a portfolio. Right now, you may just have money in savings. But as you go through life, you're going to build out your portfolio, your assets, as it were. Portfolio can mean a house, any kind of asset is a portfolio. But for right now, let's talk about your savings and checking. This is in the tax bucket of the tax now. And what this means is the money in your checking savings. Some of you have, maybe you invest on Robinhood or one of the mobile apps or something like that. Any profit that you make in savings, checking, stocks, all this, whoops, you will get a 1099 every year and it'll be plugged into your taxes. Now, savings and checking, you're not earning very much these days, right? 0.03 is about the upper limit. If you have an online bank, you may get that up to a higher 0.05 or 0.08. Why? Because they don't have a bricks and mortar location to pay for. It's all virtual. So they can pass the savings along to you. But for most of us, if we bank at Chase or First Midwest or something like that, you're gonna your interest is about 0.03. Okay. Now, and that's good to have. What's the advantage of having money there in savings and checking? It's liquid. You could go right now while we're speaking on your app and move money around. Very liquid. You can do it instantaneously. It's good to have money in that bucket. Now, let's talk about your tax later bucket. Tax later bucket is where your 401k lives, or if you have somebody who's in teaches or works at a hospital or in the trades, they have a pension, and which are nice. They have some advantages because they pay out X number of dollars when you retire. Hit the trigger on that. It pays out X number of dollars for life. So and you don't have to worry about the market because you're guaranteed that money as much as anything can be guaranteed. But many of us have 401ks. Some of us have IRAs. IRA stands for individual retirement account. In other words, you started this outside of your company. It's good to have both for reasons I'll get into a little bit later, or we'll talk in the Q&A. But this is money that you've not paid taxes on. It goes pre-tax into these buckets right here. And when you retire, you take the money out. And guess what? You pay the taxes on it when you retire. You take it as regular income. So, whether you're taking out $100,000 a year or $50,000 a year or whatever it is, you're going to be paying taxes on that when you retire. All right. Now, the other area of investing, and this is where I encourage everybody to think about, is money that is tax never again money. Tax never again money, meaning you pay taxes on it. It comes out of your checking or savings or from an IRA. Taxes have already been paid, or we move over the tax wall, move over here, and we use something called a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. Some of you will have benefits, and this goes back to the benefits piece. Some of you will have an opportunity to contribute to a Roth 401k. By all means, do that. Sometimes we use cash value life insurance. My point is, when you draw this money out, it is tax free. Why? Because you've paid the taxes right over here before it's gone in to your bank account. Or if you move it from an IRA to a Roth IRA, you do have to deduct somewhere between 15 and 25% for state and federal taxes. So, which is not fun, believe me, when you see how much taxes we pay as Americans, which, by the way, is the lowest, not getting political, but right now we are in the lowest tax environment that I have ever seen in my life. So is that going to stay where it is for very much longer? No, because taxes at some point, I would predict, have to go up. Why? Because we're spending a lot of money on stimulus and stuff. Nothing, not being political, but just telling you where we're at with that. So again, have a budget and write it down, because there's something about putting pen to paper that is very helpful. And so you can see it. Doesn't mean it can't change and so forth, but putting it pen to paper, and I'll send that out as well